Hello all. After a really hot, muggy week, I'm sure that you're ready to get into already week 5 of our summer course in research methods. And this particular week, we are going to be talking about collecting the data. So, what that refers to is basically our research instrument. How valid is that instrument? How much qualitative data and how much quantitative data is needed to back up the sub-goals that support our hypotheses? So here we're looking at essentially getting the data that is going to be significant to work with our literature review to differentiate the sub-goal of each section of your paper from the validity and the content that goes into what you stated in your hypotheses. Okay, to say that in simple English, every research project has a scope and a limitation on what it offers. In other words, how much are you needing to know based on your problem statement to solve the problem? Where do you get the data? Your questionnaire, basically in your research instrument, is going to validate just how far you're going with the material that you are collecting. So how much of it is going to be statistical and how much of it is going to be qualitative? All right. The qualitative aspect, a lot of you are looking at that with the Likert scale. Quantitative aspect has to do with drawing on opinions. All right? What do people think of a certain thing? For example, on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you rate changing how important do you need to change the infrastructure of a particular building relative to environmental change? So, opinions can work as supportive data when you put them together in what we call frequency. Frequency is the number of times that what you ask, the response is repeated over and over again until it becomes predominant in what you're saying relative to your literature review. So the thing I want to really get across to you in this particular section is when you're collecting your data, always be cognizant that what you collect from your what we call research subjects, the people that you're interviewing, may not always coincide exactly with what you found in your literature review, where other studies were conducted in the same area. You have to be able to put it all together and differentiate between what people are saying and what the data that they've already recorded has come up with. And the thing is that you want to make sure that the disparity between the two doesn't cloud your particular sub-goal. Okay? If people are saying one thing and your research says something else, you have to come to the conclusions based on your study of the validity of how far the two are apart. All right? You can look at the tank, it's half full. You can look at it, it's half empty. Both are essentially true, but both statistically are coming at arriving at that conclusion from a different perspective. So you don't want to be opinionated in your findings to the point where everything that you say is biased because you have a belief that is not supported by substantive data. When you research, try to keep a particular neutrality. Come middle of the road in what you hear someone say in an interview and what you have found in your research, and then take a really good look at the research and say, does this really fit the equation of what I'm trying to prove relative to who I just talked to? So you control that part of the research. If you come up with a totally different opinion based on fact, all right, that sounds like an oxymoron, right? An opinion based on fact. You come up with a conclusion, which in a sense is an opinion based on fact relative to what you've collected in your data and what you've researched. That conclusion is going to either validate or negate your hypotheses. So when you start writing the body of your paper, you're going to notice where this research is going based on what you originally thought before you started doing your research and what you came up with after you did your research. So make this instrument as unbiased and neutral as you can. If you're asking questions, you don't want to ask questions that are going to be leading to a conclusion that, excuse me, leading to a conclusion that you and only you believe. You have to be sure that the conclusions that you draw are going to be consistent with the methodology of your approach based on your research instrument. So that's kind of where this is all going. I know this is kind of a lengthy webcam video for this particular week, but your research instrument is really, really important. You need to draw opinions and get the most information that you can based on not only what other people said, but also what you experience in your own fields. You're all out there working every day, you see certain things, but you're getting other perspectives other than your own. So again, keep that neutrality. Look at chapter 9 in your book. That is going to give you a lot of information. There's some really good PowerPoints in there. And have an enjoyable week and try to keep cool.